to Choices Global, production of First Assembly of God, LNP Durban, Hartmanville, Georgetown, Guyana. In this episode, we embark on a journey into the heart of a timeless virtue that serves as the cornerstone of a thriving society, the value of integrity. In a world where the line between right and wrong can often blur and ethical principles are put to the test, our exploration today seeks to illuminate the significance of integrity in shaping the fact of today's society. Today we have on the panel Chevron Corbin, finance expert, leadership and business coach from Geneva, Switzerland. Gavin Walker is a pastor thriving church in Columbus, Ohio for over 10 years, husband of Pastor Marcia, father of two, and now a grandfather of one. We have as well evangelist David Hermanstein, who resides in the US, is also a community change agent and an expert in national customs and excise operations. Lemar Williams, attorney at law, and Dr. Lashonda Kelman, youth leaders and activists in Georgetown, Guyana. I am your moderator today, Dr. Celicia Pariag from the US. Welcome to you, our panelists.
Thank
C.S.
you.
Lewis, writer and theologian, all said, integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And so I want to invite Evangelist Hermanstein and Pastor Walker to talk to us about, is integrity still important and valued in our society today?
Well, praise God. It's good to be on this program today. Thanks for the opportunity and that wonderful introduction, Dr. Alicia. Integrity is very, very important. We're living in a society today where we find a lot of things are changing. Right has become wrong, wrong has become right. Um, Populism is has been crowned king, and people's opinion has become law,
Mhm.
or more value have been placed on we, the people. Um,
Mhm.
the question of integrity is about doing what is right, not some of the
Mhm.
time, but all of the time. And I think that should be ingrained in our lives.
Mhm.
Uh, we are different. People of faith, we are different. We come from a kingdom that is the kingdom of God, and we should be children of the light. And as children of the light, we should be different. We should operate on the nature that God has given to us, and that is one of integrity. Um, when the king is in charge of his kingdom, he determines what is right and what is wrong. We are serving the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, and he set the tone for us as we live in this life, as we live in this world, as we live in this society, as we live in our community. We should be people who have who set the example for others to follow. You know, Someone approached me a couple of years ago, and they had offered me a position. And the position that they offered me had to do, it was a very good position. And it's one of the things that I was looking forward for. Um, and but it came with a strange request. And that request had to do with, listen, I want you to say something that is not true about me, and I am going to recommend you for this position. And I said, no, I can't do it. I mean, it's something that I know I was passionate about, the position that was being offered to me. And this person that was about to make this recommendation um, had a lot of clout, had a lot of weight. His words would have catapulted me into that position. But I choose not to go that route, because I would have had to say to a whole lot of people something that is not true. Make a long story short, I ended up not getting that position. He didn't make the recommendation, and so someone else got the position. However, because I choose, and this is the important thing about integrity. Integrity must be a choice. You have to choose to be an honest person. Couple years after that same position that that evaded me, I got that position without the recommendation of that individual.
Mhm.
So integrity is important. You have to take and do the right thing in a culture that is changing.
That
Evangelist
is
David.
thank you, Pastor Walker. And that is precisely why I yield to you, because I wanted to say that it's not only integrity, it is personal integrity, because
Good.
the society is changing. He says, I want loyalty. So they're putting all kinds of things in front of integrity. And I could say to you, I hope I could say it without raising any flags, that I was in a position and I knew of the defectiveness of this particular equipment. But they say that you have to do it, because if you don't do it, what it will cost to this great organization. So I chose to do it, thinking about the cost to the organization, and it backfired on me. You understand? And at one stage, the the persons who knew that this thing wasn't good turned to me or us to ask, is this thing good? Well, that person didn't have any integrity at all. So I've come back to say that let us hold fast to personal integrity. What I should have said, that I will not do that thing. I will not be a part of that, because integrity is complete, undivided, and unbroken wholeness. So we don't go in and should not go into anything that will challenge or cause our integrity to be compromised. I served at one organization, and I would say with distinction, and members of the committee used to call me Mr. Integrity, because all I got to do is look at them when they make the recommendations, and then they will say, no, 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 we're not going to go in that direction. So integrity should not change to suit the status quo. Integrity should be a stand, and the persons involved who have integrity should be outstanding.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Proverbs 22:1 says, a good name is rather be chosen than great riches. And Proverbs 10:7, and the name of the wicked shall rot. What does mean to you? And I'm asking all the panelists, what should it mean to people? We've heard two examples of the importance of personal integrity and how it affects wider community or wider society. But based on these two scripture references, Chevron, we'll start off with you. Let's hear a perspective.
Thanks, Dr. Salisha. When I reflect on integrity, I really want to celebrate the examples given by Pastor Walker as well as Evangelist Hermanstein, and especially from Evangelist, because we often talk about when we've done good. But we never talk about when we have been challenged, when we found ourselves on the wrong side and need to come back. So I think it is important for our audience to reflect on those moments when they have missed the mark and what have they learned from it. Now, if I reflect on those verses, I'll share two perspectives. One is to be mindful of integrity, not when all is going well, but when we are most vulnerable. And I take the example from Matthew when Jesus was tested. And in his most vulnerable moment, he stood and he asked the devil to flee from him, even though he was given three amazing opportunities to partner in a space that would have looked valuable. Now, let me pivot to what we see in the world today. I want to speak about the integrity of nations or the good name of a nation. If you look at the Swiss banking system, they seem to have upheld what is sometimes good or always good. We can be the judge. But what we know is that persons trusted the system as stable for holding and keeping the value of their money. Yet, with the fall of Credit Suisse or its consolidation with UBS, the integrity of the Swiss banking system was tested. I now pivot to personal experience. We might think that riches is all that matters, but the other day, a family member shared that they wanted some critical service done before Christmas, and they offered to pay double for it. And the entity that was supposed to have provided the service simply refused by saying, "We have so much business, we are making a whole lot of money." In order to get that service done, they called on the name of a family member. I won't be that humble. It was my name. And this is the reflection that my family members share that, wow, in that moment, money did not matter. But calling the name of an employee who had served at that organization with distinction is what got them in the door. So I want to urge our young professionals and our leaders that as we present ourselves in the marketplace, as we present ourselves on the world stage, a good name is important. I want to reflect finally on Guyana's current situation, where we have a border dispute which is being addressed by the international court. And yet we are known when we look at our national songs for being, we are a peaceful people, you know. And I see this as one area where we as Guyanese should celebrate. Internally, I don't think we understand our strengths, but on the global stage, we're known for producing intellects, for producing diplomats, and for producing people who make change at the WHO, at the UNHCR, and many organizations where I have had the opportunity to step into their doors. And so this is the positive that I want to leave with our view. We as Guyanese should reflect deeply and celebrate the integrity which we've been able to produce. And as one nation, we can continue to do so.
Thank you, Siobhan. A good name is chosen than great riches. Attorney Limar, what are your thoughts as a youth leader in the Guyana space?
In law, we look at authorities, and a good name is quite important because the judgments of some of our honorable justices, they have a lot of weight within the
Mhm.
community, the legal community. So a good name is extremely important because it transcends your lifetime. And not only that,
Mhm.
I'd like to say, I like to put it like this: a good name creates room before kings. Because
Mhm.
I myself, from a scenario back where I was now starting my legal journey, and you know, I'm not the most richest person alive, but I needed an opportunity to get into a program at the university, and I was talking with the dean, and the dean asked, "Well, tell me a bit about yourself." And I told him. I started to talk, and then I mentioned a particular name that I was mentored by. Like, what? Like, okay, this. you must be a young man of caliber then. So then I'll consider you favorably. And I look at it like that. It transcends your lifetime. Integrity helps people to benefit. You know, sometimes some people may not know if to trust you in and of yourself, but because of the integrity of someone else, they can trust you. And I think I'd have the person's permission to mention them that that was Dr. Messiah, and he's a man of integrity and honesty. And integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. And so, while this person may not have known me, but they understood that I was guided by Dr. Messiah, they were like, okay, this is a man of integrity. So then, if not for Limar's own integrity, I will depend on Dr. Messiah's integrity. And I can trust this guy because I know Dr. Messiah is an unfolding man. He's not going to compromise and he's unwavering. So that is my point. I would like anyone to take away from this. Once you stay fast and keep your integrity, at some point in the future, it can create room before a king. It can create a space for someone else. So value your own
Mhm.
integrity, if not for yourself, for those that will follow you.
Indeed, totally agree. And Lashonda, Dr. Lashonda.
Well, I believe in today's society, especially where we have so many persons who are trying to be popular, so many copycats, a name can make you stand out. And it doesn't just speak to what that name means, but it's the adjectives attached to that name. When
Mhm.
persons hear your name, do they associate you with positive things or do they shun you? And I believe that when we grow up, when we get older, when we interact with society as we progress in life, we are going to come across situations that will challenge who we are as an individual, that will challenge our core beliefs. And if we uphold them, if we uphold truth, integrity, and not just be a loyal lapdog or a follower, but a leader, it will eventually pay off in the end for us. Um,
Mhm.
a classic example in our Guyanese culture, we have a saying, "Moon run till they catch 'em." We could be, you know, cunning. We could try evil tactics, different ways to get to the top, to get where we are. But there is going to be a day where our wrongs are going to come to light. And we have seen that on a world stage, just a few years back, you had the Me Too movement where so many persons, so many leading persons in the acting community, their wrongdoings caught up to them and came to light, and because of that they lost their job. Some of them even had jail time, some lost millions. So it doesn't matter how powerful you are or how rich you are. We see in that instance that if we don't maintain a particular level of integrity, a particular level of trust, eventually we can lose everything. And that's the importance of a name. It could either make us or it could break us.
Excellent. So we've heard Chevron talking about that legacy she left at that workplace. And just the mention of him, it didn't matter the money, what attracted the business or what attracted that service was her name. Limar, legacy, attaching himself to a particular person of integrity, opened the door him. Lashonda, we're seeing the trend here. We have a say, it's show me your friends and I'll tell who you are. Is it possible that your friends or those you associate with ruin your reputation or name? Limar, your thoughts as a young person.
So, as a prelude, I want to state something that was mentioned earlier. The question was asked, whether integrity is relevant in our society. And I would like to
Mm-hmm.
say, as clear as I can, it is. And integrity should not be relative because truth is not relative. There is no your truth and my truth. There is simple truth. And integrity, there's simple integrity. Now, I take a multifaceted approach to if your friends can affect your image or if they can affect how people view you. Why? Because there's a biblical mandate also upon our lives to interact and to intermingle with as many people as possible. So that becomes a scenario where you have to decide, are you going to befriend a thief in hopes of sharing the gospel? Or are you going to risk your image? And I think the two can coexist. Why? Because there are levels to which you keep your friends. They should be, or they ought to be levels as to which you keep persons close to you. Everyone should not have the same access to you, or everyone should not be so associated with you that what they do becomes a reflection of you. Why I say this? Because we are called to save people around the world, and we can't shun them. But we can be going to the bar, or liming with a fraud, liming with a thief. Eventually, people will think, well, this person is probably a thief. I've seen scenarios where some people call pastors thieves because they lime with they minister to thieves. But the line must be drawn as to how they influence our decisions. It shouldn't be a case that they pull us over to their side, that they do so many things that we start becoming a reflection of them. But our integrity should be so strong that when we interact with them, the people should start seeing changes in their lives. So they're gonna look at that person and be like, okay, this guy was with this known thief, but now I see he's not stealing anymore or anything like that. And that is how your credibility and integrity is built. It's enhanced in a scenario like that. But if you allow yourself to compromise and they influence you, then therein lies the problem. I think that it's a balancing act. And indeed, your image can be ruined, but you can also help someone by your own integrity in a scenario like that. That's just my humble opinion.
Thank you, Limar. You've introduced some interesting scenarios, some interesting points. Evangelist David, would you like to comment?
Well, it is certainly um, true to say that whatsoever man sows, he shall also reap. And if you would want to not strike the balance and to be among the thieves all the time, then certainly you will be associated with that. But we
Mhm.
have to be able to go like stealth, like special forces missions. You go there with your character and you leave with your character. You go there, you had your talk, and you stand out. You stand out. I want to bring in a technical thing because I give it some thoughts. We had a vote that changed the landscape of Guyana Parliament forever. And I told myself that if certain different persons were Speaker of the House at that time, that vote could have never passed because they would have had delay tactics and they would have caused things to stretch along until a blackout come and then the whole thing had to be folded and so on. But the integrity of a man stand and he says the vote carries. And these are the important thing. Your integrity could allow you to shape the history forever because of the stand that you will take. From the earlier example that I gave when I would say that I compromise, believing that I was doing something that is right, even though it is wrong. Listen, right is right and wrong is wrong. So, whatever, if you continue to do for the young people wrong, knowingly wrong, gonna visit you. And Dr. Lashonda says it well. Some people even have to be guests of the state. She didn't say that because of the jail time that they carried, because they were in wrong, knowing wrong, continue to do wrong, and then you'll be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and your whole family has to face with this um, botched kind of arrangement that this person went to jail because of this wrong.
Thank you, Evangelist David. Pastor Gavin, show me yours and I'll tell you who you are. Is it possible that your friends, those you associate with, can ruin your good name or reputation?
The answer to that, I think, could be yes, and it can be no. I remember growing up, and your our parents would always say, "Birds of a feather flock together." And
Yes.
if you hang with the ducks, after a while, you'll be quacking like the ducks. And so I believe that when we look at the life of Jesus, Jesus went places. He went to the house of Zacchaeus. He was a man of integrity, and he was an influencer. And so
Hmm.
one of the things we have to come to grips with is our strength. Know your weakness, and I think and don't try to fit in, because when you try fitting in, you'll end up in a lot of trouble. You'll be pressured to do things you don't want to do, and if you're spending all your time not influencing people and allowing people to influence you, well, then you will your good name can be ruined. If every time I see you, you're with X or you with Y, and that person's a person of no good character, think about the long-term effect that can have. But I think, let me tell you a story. A family member of mine recently told me this. They said to me, they work with this individual, and this person is a wealthy person, and so they they because of their integrity, this person tested them. This person put money all over the place, all over the house, and as a result of that, every time this family member found the money, they took the money back to, or give it to their boss, and the boss was like, okay, well, thank you, because everyone who had this experience either took the money, took and took something from it, and it was never their integrity never the integrity was disrupted, and so they began to look at the individuals differently. However, this family member, because of the people she hung out with, because of the persons she connected herself with, that was able to make or open a door for her. So we've got to be careful who we hang out with. We've if you're spending all your time and energy and not doing something productive, and allowing those people to influence your life rather than you being an influence in their lives, I think you're heading in the wrong direction, and your good name can be ruined. I'm reminded of the Hebrew boys they they had a very good reputation. And
Yeah.
Daniel, the Hebrew boy, when they were, matter of fact, Daniel, when Daniel was in the king's, he made a decision. He said, I will not eat from the king's table. He
Mhm.
made a decision that he was not going to identify himself with all the others who have been there. He stood out. And there are times when we have to stand out. Even if you are hanging with people, your integrity must go before you. And I think there's a scripture I'm trying to remember it. It says the memory. I think it's Proverbs 10:7. The memory of a good person
Mm.
will will prevail. Something to that effect. But so we have to make certain that the company we choose
Yeah.
um, represents what we believe.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Ladies, culture has changed over the years from the role of women in society to even changes in the family dynamics, allowing others and even leaving children unattended and open to other values and structures. How can this translate to something a family's generational good name? Siobhan and Dr. Lashonda.
Thank you, Dr. Salisha. I've listened to the panelists and I'm so intrigued. When I hear Evangelist Hermanstein speak about sowing and reaping, I think of how integrity is active. It is something that we must do. And I believe that if I look at culture and family, I must stay on integrity, that it is at the intersection, to my mind, of influence and legacy. So if I examine that in the context of family and women working and who takes care of the children, I think this is such a relevant and powerful question. And my take is twofold. Having child care where you may or may not have vetted could have positives, because sometimes you could have a broken home where there is simply pursuit of money and wealth, and so the parents are constantly out, constantly pursuing, sometimes with the idea that they're doing well or good for the family. And so you could have a caregiver who comes with their positive influence, and then they are the ones rearing and passing that information on
Mhm.
to your children and
Yeah.
actually course correcting the
Mhm.
value or the value base of your family, which is coming through your offsprings. On the flip side, you can have situations where you are out of the home and you're not able to influence and leave that legacy that you had intended. And this is where I want to caution people that when I look at the landscape of Europe, there is always this kind of family oriented approach that is celebrated simply because they sometimes allow persons to work 60%, meaning you work 3 days in a week. That allows at least one parent to be around much more in terms of helping to deliver care. That said, I believe that we must understand as families and heads of families that we must be intentional about what values we want to leave with our children. Sometimes, in our pursuit of whether it's profit or privilege, we end up leaving our values and not transferring them to our children. Yet, they are the ones who will decide when we're older, do I take my parents off of life support, or should I exercise their faith and believe for miracles? Should I put my parents in a home, an old people's home, or will I honor my parents as they did when I was younger, and I will care for them in my home or in our home where they can still see family members until their final day? And finally, if my parents have accumulated wealth and a good name, what am I going to do as the child? And oftentimes, these questions or these values are passed on when we give up a little bit of the rat race and find time to spend and impart and impact our children.
Thank you, Chevron. We're sustaining salt and light, and not allowing a negative culture to come into our homes. Lashonda, your final thoughts.
As a Sunday school teacher, one of the things that continues to amaze me is how children, especially the younger ones, they just
Mhm.
absorb information. And if you sit back and look at them, at the time you would not see them interacting or participating or doing the actions. But if you take time in their quiet moments and observe them, you will realize that whatever you placed in there, whatever they saw, they act out. And that is important because, especially in the rise with working mothers, with working uh, fathers with increased working hours, you find more and more parents are exposing their children at an earlier age to, for example, daycare, to schooling. And one of the things that should be asked is that, is this facility reflective of what I believe in? Does this facility does this facility have the values that I would want to see in my child or children? A- And from there on, you could decide, okay, I should put, my child or children in their care or not. Because what you find is that when these children go out there, whatever they see out there, not just in the home, not just what they see in the home, but whatever they see out there as well, they tend to bring in the home and they tend to act it out. Um, just from interacting, talking with some of the parents from the children in my son's school class, most of them, they're babies, 3 to 6. So they're quiet, they're looking, they're listening. You will not see them singing or clapping hands, participating in courses. But when I talk to the parents would be like, oh, yes, this morning I woke up and she was singing out loud. And they would, send voice notes or tell me the song they're singing. And I would be like, yes, we sang that this Sunday. But that child, she wasn't singing in the class. But when she went home, that was where the seed that we placed in them, that was where it developed. So you parents must be very careful in who they're expose their child to, and whose care they leave their child in. And it's not just for the daycare facilities, but also the guardians, the adults, aunts, uncles. Are these persons reflective of what you want your child to become? And then as they grow older, they're going to be in a society where they encounter all sorts of different beliefs, different cultures, different values. You want to build a strong foundation. So when they encounter these things, they will be like, no, I don't believe this. I don't stand on this. This is not what I learned. This is not what my parents would have told me. Yes, more parents are working longer hours, but don't forsake your influence on your child either. Take time to, plant good word, good seed in them. Read the word with them, pray with them. Let them also see you do these things. Let them see you act out these things. Because just from observation, they learn a whole lot of things. And it can help them in building a name for themselves and building integrity. And they will be able now to resist these foreign concepts, resist these values and beliefs that does not align with yours at home. And you will find that as they get older, as they mature, they come into a state, and yes, we get older, we tend to be more independent of our parents. So when they get mature, when they get older, you don't have to worry, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, they're out on the road partying Saturday night. You can't get them to church Sunday morning. You're wondering, do they pay their tithes? If they see you do it young when they were young, it will become a part of who they are, a part of their culture as they grow older. And so I think that we should emphasize more and more about who we are surrounded by and the action, the things that we do, the things that we say. Words have molding power as well. So if we continue to bash them, if we continue to be disappointed or call them stupid, then eventually they will reflect that. So we have to be very careful, not just with the persons we expose them to, but how we treat with them as well.
In exactly what happens in the home becomes critical as we build a generational or a legacy name for our families and for ourselves. What a wonderful and exciting topic today, today's discussion. As we conclude our journey into the profound realm of integrity, we're reminded that in a world filled with challenges and complexities, this virtue stands as a beacon of strength and moral compass. Our expression is just a tip of the iceberg of what is needed, as integrity plays a critical role in our families and thereby shaping society. Our encouragement today, we heard the panelists talk so many experiences, but we want that each one of you, it comes down a personal decision. I want to leave a good name. And our encouragement is to begin that process, if you haven't, to develop sound values first before transmitting that to your families, to your children, to those that you come into contact with. On behalf of the entire panel and the technical team of Choices Global, we want to thank you for joining us today on this such a critical and important discussion on the value of integrity. And so we want to remind you to always be kind, and to all our service women, we applaud and thank you for your service. See you next time.